United States authorities are good Marxists, not in favor of the working class, but they think in Marxist terms. They understand that capitalism produces underconsumption, and American capitalism is constantly running the risk of not having enough aggregate demand for its products.
This very idea, EU as a design of the United States, is not very well known in China. For instance, I'm thinking of this with the rise of euro for a time. And many people thought it's the Europeans' identity to show we're different from the United States. We need to have economic autonomy. And some people even say that the very breakout of the war, Kosovo War, was in one way or another the U.S. attempt to destroy the euro. And another thing is the very cause of this war against Iraq, Saddam Hussein, had to do with Saddam Hussein's decision to use euro to sell its oil. So do you think this is a fair assessment, or it's completely wrong from your point of view, as the EU's relations with the United States, more boss and vassal state, this kind of structure? Yeah.
It's an interesting hypothesis. I believe it's more complicated than that. And allow me to explain why is it more complicated. Look, the Americans didn't want to destroy the euro. The Americans were skeptical about the euro. They were saying to Europeans, what are you doing? You want to federate? Federate. But don't federate your money. Because the Americans are, whatever you may say about them, at least they are smart. And they are more practically minded. And they think globally. Germans do not think globally. They were at the time, you see, the German mindset, you have to understand, I appreciate it. They just didn't want to be a global power again because of the trauma of the defeat of Nazi Germany. They wanted one thing. And I think Chinese people understand that. They wanted to be the workshop of Europe. They wanted to make good washing machines and great propellers for your ships here in the shipyards. They wanted to make electronics. They wanted to make pharmaceuticals. They wanted to build things and make money out of that without dominating Europe or the world. That's not a bad thing. The problem is that this means you don't have an understanding of the macroeconomic conditions under which you can do it. You have to, under capitalism, you need to worry about where the demand will come. Because the problem that capitalism has, as Marxism has taught us, is that it produces underconsumption. Now, from 1945, or at least 1949, 1950, all the way to the mid-1970s and beyond, the United States created the conditions for German cars and German pharmaceuticals and German chemicals to have markets. The Germans didn't have to think about it. The Americans were managing global aggregate demand. At some point, especially after 2008, that was no longer the case. And the Germans continued not to care about managing the macroeconomy. They thought that somehow, if they produce good things, good manufactured goods, they will sell magically on the basis of how desirable they are. That's simply not understanding how capitalism works. So the Americans were looking at the euro thinking, this is going to be a problem for you folks. Think about it carefully. I have spoken to, for instance, an interesting conversation I had with Jack Lew, L-E-W. Jack Lew was the finance minister, the US Treasury Secretary of Barack Obama. He was very, very angry with Europeans, not because they had the euro, but for the same reasons I was angry with Europeans, because they were practicing austerity for the many while printing money for the many. Now, I was, from a left-wing perspective, angry with what Europe was doing. He was from an American perspective, because he understands that a Europe which was imposing austerity on the German working class, essentially is pushing American industry to boost its net exports to the United States, and therefore to export unemployment to the United States. So the American government was very angry with the European Union. One reason for the Ukraine war, one reason for essentially turning against Europe by Washington, D.C., was that the Americans wanted to teach the Europeans, and particularly the Germans, a lesson. You cannot continue to export unemployment to the United States, but just because you're not doing the right thing by your own people. And now they have won, because now the German government is completely in a state of panic.
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然烹饪。提亮肤色更年轻，抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧。